prior to us who had the same email. So the way our IDs are generated, if okay, the first letter of the first name, first letter of the middle name, and then so much of the last. But there was already a DM dirty, so so they added a 2 at the end of mine.
I see.
Our net IDs at one point were limited to 8 characters, and just recently we moved up to allow up to 15 characters. So we were back then when we could only have 8.
I was wondering, is it a group number or something that you need to add?
No, it's not. No,
Just curious.
we just have common names apparently. All right, it's about time, I guess. We'll go ahead and start. My name is David Darian. This is Brandon Powell. We're going to talk about the open source developer toolbox. Just out of curiosity, how many of you here actually went through these slides already and did the homework and got everything set up on your machines?
Where is the slide? I didn't see it on the ground.
It was sent out initially about all the flip presentations, but that's fine. We'll just go through them.
Oh yeah, I see it now. Sorry.
No, that's fine. Okay, let's just do a quick poll real quick. I see a lot of Macs out here. How many use OS X as their primary operating system? Okay, just a couple. Linux? Good. Windows? Oh, we're going to cover all 3 then. Yeah, let's go ahead. So basically, we just wanted to cover tools that were cross-platform, right? We wanted something that we could teach to everybody that's free and open source, and it'll work on a wide variety of platforms. So basically, you start off and you pick your poison, which one you want to use. And the key to success is debugging, and it's having a well set up environment. So we're through these slides. There's a lot of instructions on how to get your environment set up. So I encourage you to do that afterwards. But a lot of these things you already have your own machine. Like, how many of you are like Java developers or a lot of you? Okay, good. This is gonna work out great. How many of you are not developers? Just out of curiosity. Oh, good. Even better. You're in the right place. All right. So let's get ready to rock. So depending on what machine you want, these are the prerequisites that we recommend. We're a big fan of the command line. So we actually, even if you're on Windows, and I don't know if you guys still use DOS, but we made it so you can use a shell and you can use the command line on Windows. So it works out real well.
The prerequisites for Linux, most Linux systems already come with most of the tools. Most extra tools that you would need, they're already installed. That's why we don't have Linux on the slide.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So these are the basic setup that we need for us to complete the homework, right? So just out of curiosity, you guys use these on a daily basis? Git? Vim? No? Okay.
Emacs?
What?
Is there any?
Yeah, I'm not an Emacs guy. We can debate that later, but
Just want to make sure there's none in here.
Yeah, but we are them people by heart.
Yeah, so Java, Tomcat, Maven, I'm sure you guys will use that. Does anybody else use the PSI Pro, just out of curiosity? Yeah, put your hand down.
Anybody here actually heard of it though? Because I may not have used it, but heard of it.
It's
I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's just basically a more complex Tomcat manager, but we'll cover that in a little bit as well. And then, well, I guess we'll just go ahead. We don't really have to go through because these are just the instructions. So this is actually going to be a very quick presentation.
So this is how you install Linux or install Git on most Linux systems. We chose Debian and Red Hat to kind of go with. Those are the 2 more popular distros. Most people who are developing on their local machines will probably have like Ubuntu or some other Debian-based distro. Here's how you do it on Mac. Again, I don't know if I'm going to go through all of these slides real in depth. They're pretty basic.
Dude, the OS X developers, you guys have Brew installed? Yeah. Good call. Okay. Just want to make sure. I figured most of you guys would have Brew installed, but on the off chance, I could have talked about some other stuff. But that's great.
How many people on Windows actually use Git? Okay. what Git system do you use? Do you use Git SCM, the one from Git SCM, or do you use like GitHub's Git Manager?
You mean the host?
No, not the host, but what tool do you actually use to use Git? Or
We
use,
use source tree as well.
Okay.
Source tree.
well, I'm talking about on Windows, Git is not really a first-class citizen. It's more of you either need to install the thing from Git SCM, or you can use, if you only talk to GitHub, GitHub actually has a full Git manager that you can install on your Windows machine. I was wondering if you guys use those, or you actually use the command line tool.
Atlassian, Atlassian doesn't require, does it?
Atlassian has
Has its
farming
own.
type, yeah.
I assume on Windows, what kind of, do you guys use IDEs on Windows, or do you use a text editor like Notepad or Vim? Okay, so most of that stuff is built into your IDE.
Yeah, that's real nice.
We don't use, as we talked about, we use Vim, so we don't really, Vim is our IDE. That's why we use a lot of the command line tools with Git. This is just use the default. If you're going to actually use command line Git on Windows, choose the default options. They're the most sane. If you read through the instructions on installing it, they make mention of you can do these other things, but they don't recommend them because they could really break your system.
Yeah, just go ahead and skip that.
Yeah. Same thing on Mac.
Yeah.
On Windows, there's 3 different ways to install Vim. There's actually a version of Vim bundled with that Git bash thing that we had you install. I highly recommend that one. It's a better version of Vim. It allows more complicated Vim features. There's also gvim. It's more GUI friendly if that's the type of work that you're more familiar with. It's more limited though. And then there's also Sigwin. I think I pronounced that right. It's a more complicated setup. It's not worth getting into if you don't have to. It adds a lot of pain to your day.
All right, Java. Yeah, I'm sure everybody's installed Java throughout the time. Keep going.
Yep.
Yeah.
And on, this is a study of your environment variables. I assume if you're on Linux or Mac, you know how to do this. If not, there's that WikiHow article that we have posted there. On Windows, OpenJDK is not very well supported that we found out. This is a FOSS-based presentation, but we do unfortunately have to recommend the Oracle version of Java on Windows.
Fortunate is strong. Okay.
I'm a big fan of open source technology, and I love to push it. It's one reason why I use Linux on a daily basis, and have so for the past 10 years. The OpenJDK I think is really nice, but it is not, there's no official build. There is a GitHub link there that has an unofficial installer. I tried it out on my Windows partition that I boot up once in a blue moon, and it seemed to work just fine.
Has everybody used Tomcat and Maven? I see a lot of nods, so yeah, we'll just go ahead and skip those. Getting Tomcat set up. I see a couple portal developers, so I'm sure you know all about all this stuff. And PSI Pro, I'll let you go ahead and take care of it.
PSI Probe is a manager for Tomcat. It can be found on Google Code or code.google.com. These are the instructions on, we did this on Windows because we weren't sure how many people were actually Windows users as opposed to Mac or Linux. We assumed there'd be a higher number of people actually on Windows, but it doesn't appear to be. It appears to be a pretty decent split here.
Yeah, awesome.
Yes. So you would download the probe.zip file, and then unzip it and move it to where you have your Tomcat Home web apps directory. And that's it for installing probe. It's just a simple WAR file that you drop into the web apps folder.
Right, so if you were doing this either on a VM or trying this whole thing out, you're pretty much done setting up the environment. And one of the things, is Meld. Has anybody used Meld before? Anthony, all right. It's a great tool. I use it all the time on when I'm working with uPortal because we always have merging conflicts, and this is, at least in my opinion, one of the best merge tools that I've seen out there. It's cross-platform. Like I said, is what we're trying to do. The Windows one is what, pretty solid.
Yeah, they say that
So-so.
it's not official yet, But I was playing around with it, and it was actually really good. It worked really well, no crashes. I used it a couple of hours just to make sure that if I was going to begin out to the community, that it actually works, and it does. There's Mac. Do you want to talk about X11 for that?
And X11s.
For a Mac user, we know about X11.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if you're a new Mac user, no, they removed it.
That's right.
Yeah, I found that out the hard way. Yeah, and meld is .org. So now it'd be break time. We're gonna stay here because it's it's a short discussion. But so obviously all of you use Git, but we were assuming that there were going to be some first timers, new developers here. So bear with us. This is stuff that I'm sure you can do in your sleep now. But get an account on GitHub. And if you've never used Vim before, we suggested that you use Vim Tutor because that's how we were going to suggest editing it. I mean, you can use your favorite IDE if you're an Eclipse person or an Atom person or whatever you really like to use. But just for this tutorial, we suggest it. And now another break time. But again,
The reason for that other break time is you can spend hours in Tutor. Every day, we pretty much in the office, we learn something new about Vim. Somebody's always saying, "Oh, hey, check out this cool thing that you can do with Vim." We spent way too many hours on that.
Yeah. So the homework. So this is where the fun begins. So after all that painful of installing and reading and learning, now you get to use everything that you just learned. So create a repo. Like I said, you guys can do this in your sleep now. Oh, and then the other one was that we have our own repo, and then we kind of set up. We made a really simple Java URL shortener, and we broke it. So you get to go ahead and use all the tools that we have on here to fix it, and learn how to use Git, learn how to use Vim, use Meld. So we really didn't have like step-by-step instructions on all of it, but just go through real quick.
The reason why we didn't have step-by-step is we wanted you guys to try and not necessarily fail, but play around with it, see if you got stuck. And I assume that, excuse me, when we came here to this presentation, I expect if you had questions on if you got stuck on something, you could have emailed us. We have our emails in the presentation, or if you were here talking with us, we could have helped you out. That's actually why we have the 3 people in the back there, in case there's any issues. And there's a bunch of people, and we have some Windows people back there, we have some Mac people, Linux person, that would be able to help out in all different systems.
Oh yeah, it's not the most pretty application, so don't judge us on the code. We put it together in like a week. So we had a branch and we wanted you guys to merge it in, which I'm sure all of you have done, and resolve a nice little conflict, add it, commit, and that's most of it.
Set up this teaching group.
Oh yeah, compilers.
I think we had 2 compilers.
Oh yeah, throughout this, sorry to cut you off. Yeah, but throughout this, we have you use a lot of
core utils.
core utils. Yeah, so we
Like
got
grep, find. I wanted to get into set and awk, but he told me no.
no, that's too complicated because Benito probably would have loved it, but we're gonna save the headache for this time, maybe next year.
Okay. I'll remember.
Tools like grep and find we use on an almost daily basis when we're searching through code.
Yeah.
We
I
have-
couldn't recommend that more. They're such powerful tools, and you can use them in so many different ways. And the whole point of stuff like this is to kind of get you guys going, and you can go, okay, so I can do this one command, but how can I mix it with something else, or how can I make a script? And the next thing you know, you're actually you're creating your own debugging tool, and then hopefully you can open source that and share that with us. Which is actually one of the things that we have on here is one of our students wrote a manager, I guess we would call it, a CLI-based manager for Probe. So we can actually start and stop all of our portlets or web applications directly from the command line without going into the manager. And that link's actually on here if you guys are interested in obtaining it and want to play around with it. But it's just an idea of stuff that you can do once you start using these tools more and more on a daily basis.
And the scripts don't actually have to be useful. one of our students actually wrote a script to change the color of the output of a command. So he called it rainbow eyes. So when you're catting out, let's say Catalina.out, which is when you're doing a Java web app, it's usually a bunch of stuff just keeps coming and coming. He has it set up so that it goes through all the colors of the rainbow for you. So you could do something simple like that, or you could do something more complex and write a manager for PSI probe. So you can do a lot of different things with scripts.
Well, I guess the whole point was to talk about the homework and stuff, but let's kind of turn this into a discussion now. But you know our favorite tools, but I'd like to hear some of your guys', especially people from different platforms. Like, what do you guys use as a Steve? Go right ahead. Yeah. Yeah, don't shout it out once. That's fine.
Any EMAC users in here? No?
No,
Oh, good.
we got one.
Oh.
We can debate later. It's
Nano.
Nano. It should be Pico.
Okay, what IDEs are
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I have one simple one.
Yeah, go ahead.
I know that favor of connections, I find that for some of the IDE, they have pretty robust find features.
Yes, they do, and we wanted to include those, and that was part of our initial plan, but we thought it was going to take up too much time because we were thinking about using Eclipse and getting the Spring plugins and going through that, but that would have been probably another 30, maybe an hour just to get set up if you've never done that before. Unfortunately, we wanted to stick with something that we're a little more comfortable with.
Also,
But to expand, broaden the horizons too, because maybe not everybody uses the command line.
we also weren't sure how much homework to really give.
Yeah.
We didn't want to make it, a typical 16 college week course. With something like Vim, I could easily write a course that takes 16 weeks. So we wanted to actually slim it down more so that it could be done, maybe a day or two before the conference. So you were actually somewhat prepared, came in, had some of the stuff done, maybe not necessarily everything.
Yeah. So does really anybody else have? Yeah, go ahead.
Can you tell me about the benefits of PSI Pro? What's
Yeah.
I don't really know anything about it. Just
Okay.
what would I gain by this one?
Did you use the Tomcat Manager?
Well, I try and avoid it.
Yes.
At all costs. You know what I mean? I tend
Something to go
to
to.
just deploy and restart Tomcat.
Yeah.
Because every time you try and do anything with the manager, Tomcat tends to not be able to hot swap applications. very
That's
easily.
right. Actually, PSI Pro is pretty decent at that. At least it's starting and stopping. You can view graphs of your memory, your cache, and what part of your JVM is running high, and if it gets, you can force a garbage collection at some point if you really want to. Go ahead. No, fair enough. That was it. I mean, in its simplest form, we use it to start and stop, just because I feel like it's a little more eye-pleasing. And plus,
So you use the same user accounts as?
yes. So you would set up your Tomcat Manager GUI in your
Yeah.
in your roles,
Yeah.
and you're good to go. So it's the same username and password. And
I'm interested in help debug. So what tool do you use to debug on your code?
Between tools like grep and find, let's say we get a compile error and it says missing class or class not found or something like that. We can grep through our code, figure out exactly where that's at, see if it's being used anywhere else, and then see, using grep you can actually do case-insensitive search. So let's say you capitalize one letter in one file, but you didn't capitalize it in the other, and it's a mismatch. You can find it that way. Between tools like grep, set, awk, find, let's see, even meld if you're doing merging of code. We use a lot of those tools to find bugs.
The compiling bugs. Do you use some tools like debugging for the running application?
You can actually somewhat use PSI Probe to do that. You can actually kind of inspect the application that's running. You can take a look at the web XML that the application is using to see if there's any, just make sure that let's say your Maven process properly adds in a variable via a filter, that might be a potential issue. You can view that with PSI probe. We have not, I think it's called JMeter, or is it JMeter?
There's a bunch of tools that start with J. But yeah.
I'm not sure if it's JMeter. I don't remember offhand what it is, but it does, or no, JCouncil, excuse me. JCouncil gives you a little bit more information on your process. We have not had an opportunity to really sit down and play around with it yet. A lot of the debugging that we do is grubbing through log files or just compile errors that we need to try and fix.
Another one for us is we're using Logback. And Logback, it's a Java-based logger. I think it runs on the Apache logger. I think that's what it was. I don't remember. But for me, if I'm doing like logical errors, I put Dave Rocks through a lot of the code and try to figure out logically where I am. And I can see, okay, Dave Rock's here, Dave Rock's there, Dave Rock did it there, so I know that something's broken over here. So that's usually my my first step. But yeah, the logger is actually very helpful.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I'm asking is kind of like we are good at command line. I usually using Eclipse IDE, and then I can at runtime I can do the remote debugging, so I can actually see the object and then the values of which one got trouble. I'm not familiar with the command line doing this, so that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, Eclipse in that sense is great because you can see where stuff's broken. You can set breakpoints very easily.
Check some values and it's
right.
not like that.
You can see actually what's inside the JVM, which I agree is very nice.
Part of the problem for us with that is not all the time do our developers have machines that can be running very, very, very large Java applications all at the same time. And it's not just us. There's plenty of places where even my personal laptop is a halfway decent machine, has 8 gigs of RAM. It can barely do uPortal, all the portlets, and Eclipse at the same time. And if you don't have a machine that can really, really use, or that doesn't have a lot of resources, you can't always debug fast enough. So we take that opportunity to get rid of Eclipse. We use Vim, we use the core utilities, and just do simple text-based searching to figure out what our problems are. So we've gotten very good at doing it that way.
You mentioned some hesitation to put up Eclipse in this because then you got to go download all the plugin. But I didn't hear mention of STS, Spring Tools Suite.
That's basically Eclipse with the Spring.
That's why I mentioned it, because then you wouldn't have had to do it.
Yeah,
that's what I use.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
I'm a big Eclipse fan, but I got tired of downloading plugins.
Right, and that does make it a little bit easier. Does that stay pretty up to date? I guess I'm not. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I love it. It's great.
Yeah. Some of the stuff that they have on there, especially because when I first started developing with uPortal, I just had Eclipse, and it kept telling me like, this annotation or something was broken and not right, and I had no idea what they were talking about. So
yeah.
It would have been nice if I had known.
Well, you guys also mentioned that I don't know this ecosphere. This is my first time in this ecosphere, so I have never done development with any of your guys' applications or anything, but it used to be on quality. So you mentioned big projects, takes too many resources, right? I experienced that with quality, and we left Eclipse because of that. Yeah. So it could be that would be an issue with your guys' stuff too.
Well, we made the mistake of running Postgres on our local machine, uPortal on our local machine, Tomcat running, getting Eclipse up and running, and when you have 4 gigs of RAM, exactly. It's gone when you hit start. So.
Yeah. Well, not to mention developers love to listen to music, and all of our data. And when you're trying to listen to music and all of a sudden it just starts going choppy because you're running uPortal or you're running something else, well, now you can't really listen to your music, can you?
Yeah. There you go.
Music is key. I highly recommend that too. But
that's how I get into
just on the tools list.
Yeah, right. Step 1, Git. Step 2, Vim. Step 3, Spotify. Anybody else have any questions?
Why is iTurn2 cool? I've never heard of it.
It's just a more beefed up terminal for OS X. It has more features, and you can make it transparent. And
eye candy mostly, or?
There's some. I'm sure there's other benefits to it. I wish I had some off the top of my head, but I use it mostly for the transparency.
Oh.
And,
I can't hear.
and it's easier to, in my opinion, easier to like switch shells. 'Cause I don't use Bash. I'm a big CSH fan, and so it was really hard at first trying to figure out how to change the shell in Mac. So.
Does anybody use any kind of terminal multiplexer, like Screen or Tmux? Screen. Okay.
It's great.
I'm actually a big Tmux fan, but I am a bad Tmux user. I bind the key to Control A like Screen does. Both Screen and Tmux are really great terminal multiplexers. If you have to SSH into a server and do a lot of different work on multiple files, or look at a log file while editing a file, you can use Tmux to actually split the screen, so you don't have to have 2 SSH sessions opened up on that box. So I don't know if anybody else uses terminal multiplexers. That was something else we wanted to kind of add in, but we weren't sure on timing and how much we really wanted to give out as homework.
And how many people are actually using Linux? So.
Yeah.
Screen's great when you have that questionable wireless connection to your
Yes.
server. So, yeah. Saved my butt once or twice.
Yeah.
It is
Just
saved me
detach and
numerous
come back
times.
later.
So what does it do? It opens 2 consoles essentially, but uses the same connection?
Yep.
Okay.
It persists. So if you connect, start the screen application, and then for some reason there's a network interruption,
Yeah.
the session doesn't terminate because it's running virtually as the screen application. So you can log back in, reattach to that screen session, and it's like you never logged out. Lost
It's
connection.
great if you have to run a long script or something. You just want your terminal back or something, or you can, like you said, just detach and come back later.
It's also really great if you're at work, you're working on something, and you have a Tmux session or a screen session open, and you're done for the day, so you just detach. You go home. Boss calls you a couple hours later and says, hey, everything you just did, stuff just broke. Well, what you can do, if you left your Tmux or screen session open, you get home, you log it, you VPN in, you SSH back into your box, you reload up, reattach your session, you're back to where you started. You don't need to remember which files you had opened up. You don't need to remember which log files you were looking at, which directories you were in. That'd all be in that same Tmux or screen session.
Oh, that's cool. That would actually solve some issues.
Yes.
It's real nice.
I
And
use
you can split it, vertical, horizontal, and
And you can even have multiple windows opened up, which is what I make use of it for. Instead of using splits and then, I actually open up multiple windows in my Tmux session to have all those different files open to them. So I have a full screen for one file.
So who uses KDE versus GNOME, and which Windows manager do you prefer? Because I like Flexbox.
Awesome.
Flexbox is nice. Yeah, I was a fan of
That's old
Flexbox for a
school.
while. He's a big awesome guy.
Oh, okay.
Two of our developers back there are also big, awesome guys.
I used i3 for a while. I don't like KDE. GNOME 2 was great.
Yep, they destroyed it with GNOME 3.
Now I'm using Mate if I need something. Right now I have a Chromebook, so I get whatever I have. I can get a terminal, and that's pretty much all I need at the moment. But
Very nice. That's why I moved to a Mac.
that's my
BSD core.
yeah, and that's what I use at work.
Yep.
And I love it. I have a terminal. I mean
That's everything.
that's huge for me right there.
Yeah, I need a tiling window manager. Sorry.
Well, that's pretty much it for us. We'll be around. I know we still have some time, so if you guys just want to come up and chat and talk about stuff, thank you for your time.